Too cold, we must share one bed and sleep together. Alien woman, the research station on Viewership 9, was silent in a way that made even experienced scientists uneasy. The silence was not empty. It was heavy, pressing against the walls like an invisible weight. Outside the thick, transparent panels, the planet stretched into endless white and blue, frozen storms moving slowly across the surface like living things. This world was not made for humans. Dr. Elias Ward knew that from the first moment he arrived. The air was thin, the light sharp, and the cold was beyond anything Earth had prepared him for. The station's temperature was kept far below what a human body preferred. It was comfortable only for the Keller, the native species who had built the outpost. The Keller were tall, elegant beings with pale, crystalline skin that reflected light like ice. Cold strengthened them. Heat weakened them. Where humans needed warmth, the Keller needed chill. That was why Elias was the only human here. He had been chosen because he specialized in extreme environments and alien biology. He had trained for years, learning how to survive where his body did not belong. Still, training could not change the truth. Without technology, this planet would kill him in minutes. The station's systems were his lifeline, or they had been. The first warning came as a soft tone, barely loud enough to notice. Elias looked up from his data pad and frowned. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Across the room, Commander Sathira stood perfectly still. She did not react the way a human might. Her kind did not panic easily. Her many-faceted eyes focused on the wall display as new symbols appeared. "Power fluctuation," she said calmly. Her voice had a smooth, resonant sound like wind moving across ice. "Minor." Elias relaxed slightly and returned to his work. Power issues happened sometimes during solar activity. The station was designed for it. Then the temperature dropped. At first, Elias thought it was his imagination. The station was always cold, after all. But then his breath became visible. Thin white clouds escaped his lips, drifting upward. He froze, not from the cold, but from fear. "That's not normal," he said. Sathira tilted her head, a gesture that meant curiosity. "The temperature is adjusting to optimal levels." "For you," Elias replied. His fingers were already stiff. "Not for me." Another alarm sounded, louder this time. The lights dimmed again, and this time they did not return to full brightness. The wall display changed color, power failure. Somewhere deep inside the station, something shut down with a dull, distant sound. The hum of the environmental systems weakened, then slowed. The cold rushed in like a living thing. Elias stood up too fast, dizziness washing over him. He grabbed the edge of the table to steady himself. "How long until backup power?" he asked. Sathira did not answer immediately. That worried him more than anything. "Backup systems failed during the solar flare," she said at last. "External rescue signal has been sent." Elias swallowed. "How long?" "Several hours," she replied. "Possibly longer." Several hours. His suit was rated for short exposure, not extended survival in deep freeze. Even with emergency heaters, his body would lose heat faster than it could produce it. He forced himself to think clearly. Panic would waste energy. "I need to seal my quarters and reduce airflow," he said. "Every degree matters." Sathira watched him move, her expression unreadable. Keller faces did not show emotion the way human faces did. But her attention was sharp. "You may do so," she said. Elias hurried down the corridor, his boots echoing loudly in the growing quiet. Frost was already forming along the edges of the walls. He could feel the cold biting through his clothing, sharp and painful. Inside his small living space, he activated every emergency measure he had. Thermal blankets, personal heaters, insulation panels. He worked fast, hands shaking, breath uneven. When he finally sat down, wrapped in layers, he checked his vitals. His core temperature was already dropping. "Still too fast," he muttered. The door slid open without warning. Sathira stepped inside, her presence filling the small room. The cold did not bother her. If anything, she seemed more alert now. "This room retains heat," she observed. "Yes," Elias said. "Not enough, though." She looked at the narrow sleeping platform against the wall. It was designed for one human, soft, insulated, surrounded by thermal controls. For a moment she was silent. Then she spoke, her tone direct and practical. "Too cold," she said. "We must share one bed and sleep together." Elias stared at her. His brain struggled to process the words. Shock, confusion, embarrassment all rushed through him at once. "I what?" he said. Sathira seemed confused by his reaction. "Your species generates significant body heat." Combined thermal regulation increases survival probability. She paused, then added, "This is standard Keller survival protocol." Elias rubbed his face with numb fingers. He knew enough about alien cultures to understand what she meant. For her people, physical closeness during extreme cold was not personal. It was biological, necessary. For him, it was anything but simple. Still, the cold answered the question for him. His teeth began to chatter uncontrollably. "If this is the best option," he said slowly, "then okay." Sathira moved with careful precision, adjusting the bed settings. She lay down first, her body cool and firm like living crystal. Elias hesitated only a second before joining her. The moment he did, the difference in temperature shocked him. Her skin was cold, far colder than his own, pulling heat from him instantly. "That's not helping," he gasped. Sathira adjusted her position, bringing their forms closer, aligning heat transfer the way her training dictated. "Remain still. Your heat output will stabilize." It felt strange, uncomfortable, and deeply unnatural to Elias, but slowly something changed. The thermal systems reacted to the combined mass. The insulation trapped what little warmth they had. His emergency heaters synchronized with the bed's controls, and his body adapted. Elias focused on breathing slowly, deeply. He remembered his training, calm preserved heat. Fear wasted it, minutes passed, then more. The pain faded into a dull ache. Sathira watched him closely. Humans were fragile. She expected signs of failure, loss of consciousness, uncontrolled shaking, perhaps worse. But Elias did not fail. He adjusted his posture slightly, redirecting his warmth toward her without realizing it. His breathing slowed, his muscles relaxed. "You are conscious," she noted. "Barely," he replied. "But yeah, still here." She found that unexpected. Hours passed in silence, broken only by distant sounds of the storm outside. Ice struck the station's hull like thrown stones. The temperature dropped further, yet the human endured. When Sathira checked his vitals using her wrist device, she paused. His core temperature had stabilized. Low but stable, that should not have been possible. "You are suffering," she said. "Sure," Elias answered weakly. "But suffering doesn't mean quitting." She did not understand that, not fully. Keller's survival depended on environment control and biological optimization. Humans, it seemed, survived by something else entirely: adaptation, will, and a strange ability to share pain instead of avoiding it. As the rescue signal continued to pulse into the frozen sky, Sathira realized something had changed. The human was not a liability. He was something far more dangerous, not because of strength, but because he refused to give up, even when the universe clearly wanted him dead. The storm did not end when the rescue signal finally reached the Keller fleet. Outside the station, the frozen winds grew stronger, not weaker. Sheets of ice struck the hull again and again, each impact sending a low vibration through the walls. Inside the small sleeping chamber, time lost meaning. There was only cold, breath, and the slow fight to stay alive. Elias drifted in and out of awareness. Sometimes he dreamed of Earth, warm sunlight, rain that did not freeze before touching the ground. Other times there was only darkness and the sound of his own heartbeat pounding too loudly in his ears. Each time he slipped too far, something pulled him back, a steady pressure. A firm presence beside him, Sathira. She did not sleep the way humans did. Her kind entered light rest cycles, always partly aware. She felt the changes in Elias' body before the instruments warned her. When his breathing slowed too much, she adjusted their position. When his muscles trembled, she stabilized him, holding him in a way that kept his heat from escaping. She did not think of it as care, she thought of it as survival. Still, a strange awareness settled in her mind. Humans were not built for this. Any data she had studied said he should have failed hours ago. His body temperature was low. His energy reserves were nearly gone, yet he endured. At one point, his eyes opened slightly. "Still cold," he whispered. "Yes," she replied. He gave a weak sound that might have been a laugh. "Figures." Silence returned. Sathira checked the external sensors again. Rescue was closer now. The fleet had entered orbit, but landing was impossible in the storm. They were attempting to cut through with remote systems, searching for a safe docking window. Time was still the enemy. Elias' condition worsened slowly, then faster. His skin lost color. His responses grew delayed. His body began to choose what to save and what to abandon. That was when he did something unexpected. With shaking effort, he shifted again, pressing himself closer, not to take warmth, but to give it. He angled his body in a way that reduced heat loss from Sathira's core joints, areas vulnerable even to her species. "What are you doing?" she asked quietly. "Sharing," he murmured. "You need it too." The words stayed with her. Keller doctrine taught that survival was individual efficiency within a system, each being optimized themselves. Humans, it seemed, survived by linking themselves together, even at cost. It was inefficient. And yet it worked. Minutes stretched into an hour, then another. When the station shook violently, Sathira reacted instantly. Ice fractures rippled across the outer hull. Structural warnings flared. "This station will not hold much longer," she said. Elias did not respond. She felt his breathing, still there, faint but steady. For the first time in her life, Sathira felt something close to fear, not fear of death, fear of loss. She activated her communicator. "This is Commander Sathira. Human life signs are critical. Expedite extraction." Static filled the channel, then a voice answered. "We are attempting breach. Conditions are unstable." "Attempt faster," she said, her comm cracking just slightly. The wall near the chamber glowed faintly as cutting tools engaged from the outside. Heat bled into the frozen metal, creating steam that froze again in seconds. Elias stirred. "Hot?" he asked weakly. "Yes," she said. "Help is here." "Good," he breathed. "Didn't want to miss it." The wall finally gave way with a sharp sound. Emergency lights flooded the room as Keller rescue units rushed in, armored against the cold. They stopped when they saw the scene. The human and the commander, pressed together, sharing a single space. Several of them hesitated. Sathira did not move. "Extract the human first," she ordered. They worked quickly, wrapping Elias in layered thermal fields, lifting him with care. His body resisted the change, reacting badly when separated from Sathira's stabilizing presence. She reached out without thinking, placing a hand against his shoulder until the medics adjusted their equipment. His breathing steadied again. Only then did she step back. The rescue ship was warm, almost painfully so. Elias groaned as sensation returned to his limbs. His mind struggled to catch up with reality. He was alive. Medical staff surrounded him, their movements fast and precise. They spoke in clipped tones, exchanging data. Sathira stood apart, watching. "You should not have survived," one of the medical officers said, reviewing the readings. "Your exposure time exceeded human limits." Elias managed a tired smile. "Yeah, I hear that a lot." He turned his head slightly and saw Sathira. "Guess your plan worked." She inclined her head. It was a shared effort. He closed his eyes again. Hours later, when Elias finally slept properly, Sathira was summoned before the High Council. The chamber was cold, vast, and quiet, designed to inspire clarity and order. She presented her report. Not just the facts of the failure and rescue, but the details she could not ignore. The human's endurance, his behavior, his decision to share warmth even when it endangered him. The council listened in silence. "This behavior is illogical," one counselor said at last. "He risked his survival unnecessarily." Sathira did not disagree. "Yes." "Then why did it succeed?" another asked. She paused. "Because humans do not calculate survival the way we do," she said. "They do not separate individual survival from group survival. To them, they are the same." The council considered this. Later, across the fleet, data analysts compared reports. Human missions in extreme conditions. Human crews under stress. Again and again, the same pattern appeared. When conditions worsened, humans did not retreat inward. They moved closer together. They talked. They shared resources. They endured discomfort for one another, and their survival rates rose. Elias recovered slowly. His body bore the marks of the cold, but his mind remained sharp. When Sathira visited him in recovery, he was sitting up, wrapped in blankets, staring out at the stars. "Looks warmer from here," he said. "Yes," she replied. There was an awkward pause. "Thank you," he said then, "for not letting me freeze," she answered honestly. "You did the same for me." He blinked, surprised, then smiled again. "Guess that makes us even." "Perhaps," she said. Before she left, she added something she had never said to another being before. "If circumstances were repeated, I would choose the same protocol." Elias nodded. "Me too." The report spread beyond the Keller fleet. Other species read it with curiosity at first, then concern. Humans were reclassified, not as fragile observers, not as weak specialists, but as a species capable of surviving where logic said they should not, because they refused to face hardship alone. The galaxy took note, because any species that could turn shared suffering into strength was not one to underestimate. And somewhere deep in space, long after the ice storms of Viewerks 9 were forgotten, one truth remained clear. When the universe grew cold and uncaring, humans did not face it alone. They reached out, and they survived. The galaxy did not change overnight, but it shifted. Small things moved first. Quiet changes in how humans were watched, how their ships were logged, how their presence was recorded in shared databases. Where once there had been notes of caution about human weakness, new comments appeared. Unexpected endurance. Sometimes he woke from sleep with the feeling that the air was too thin. But he continued because that was what humans did. The Keller offered to send him home. He refused. The new station was stronger, deeper, built with lessons learned from the disaster on Viewerks 9. Its systems were better protected, its walls thicker, still cold, always cold. Sathira remained in command. Their interactions were professional, calm, and careful, but something unspoken existed between them, a shared memory of survival that neither needed to explain. Other species noticed. A delegation from the Threx Union arrived first, tall insect-like beings with sharp limbs and careful movements. They observed humans with open curiosity. "You survived exposure beyond tolerance," one of them said during a joint briefing. "Explain." Elias shrugged. "We stayed alive. That is not an explanation." "It's the truth," he replied. Sathira watched the exchange closely. She saw how Elias did not raise his voice, did not challenge directly, but also did not submit. He spoke plainly, without fear, without pride. That confused many species. Later, during a station-wide emergency drill, a power node failed unexpectedly. It was a minor fault, not dangerous, but the response revealed everything. The Keller moved to isolate systems. The Threx retreated to protected zones. Each species followed their own doctrine. The humans moved toward one another. They checked on crewmates, shared equipment, linked communication lines. No one ordered it, no one planned it. They simply did it. The fault was repaired quickly. No damage, no injuries. But the observers recorded the behavior. Days later, a real emergency came. A deep space signal arrived, damaged and fragmented. A research convoy had been caught near a collapsing star system. Radiation levels were rising. Gravitational forces were tearing ships apart. Multiple species refused involvement. "Probability of loss too high," they said. Humans volunteered. Elias stood in the command chamber as the decision was made. A human rescue ship would attempt extraction. The odds were poor. Sathira analyzed the data. "Your ship is not rated for this environment." "No," Elias agreed, "but we can try. Trying may result in death." "Yes," he said simply. She looked at him for a long moment. "Then why proceed?" "Because someone is already dying," he answered, "and we're still breathing." The human ship launched within hours. Other species watched from a distance. They expected failure, or at best, partial success. What they saw instead changed long-held assumptions. The human crew adapted constantly. When radiation spiked, they redistributed shielding. When gravity shifted, they rebalanced mass. When systems failed, crew members shared workloads, physically supporting one another to stay functional. They spoke constantly, encouraged one another, corrected mistakes without blame. They did not panic, they did not freeze. They endured. The convoy was saved, not perfectly. Losses occurred, but far fewer than expected. When the human ship returned, damaged and barely holding together, the silence in the observation chambers was heavy. Sathira read the after-action reports carefully. Again and again, the same pattern appeared. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they refused isolation. The council convened an emergency summit. Multiple species attended. The topic was clear: humans. "What they do violates efficiency models," one representative said. "They act emotionally," said another. "Yes," Sathira said, "and it works." The council debated for many cycles. Data was shared, simulations run, models adjusted. The results were undeniable. Under extreme conditions, cooperation driven by emotional bonds outperformed pure logic. Humans were not irrational, they were relational. The galaxy began to adapt. Joint crews were restructured to include humans in high-risk missions, not as leaders, not as tools, as anchors. Elias noticed the change when alien crew members began standing closer during briefings, when they asked questions not just about procedures, but about people. How do humans remain calm? "We don't always stay calm. We just don't run away from each other when things get bad." One cycle, during a routine systems check, the temperature regulators dipped briefly. Only a few degrees. Still, a Keller technician flinched. Without thinking, Elias adjusted the local controls and stood nearby. "It's fine," he said. "I've got you." The technician later reported increased efficiency and reduced stress. It was logged. Quietly, new protocols emerged across the galaxy, not official ones, unofficial ones. When conditions worsened, pair humans with others. When morale dropped, place humans nearby. When fear spread, listen to the humans. Sathira met Elias in the observation deck weeks later. Stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass. "You have altered interspecies survival models," she said. Elias sighed. "Didn't mean to." "That does not matter," she replied. "The outcome does." She paused, then added, "Your species is dangerous." He smiled faintly. "We've been saying that for years." "No," she corrected. "Dangerous because you survive suffering without becoming empty." He considered that. "We don't really have a choice." They stood in silence. Far away, new missions launched. Some would fail, some would succeed. Humans would be there, not because they were ordered, but because they chose to be. The galaxy learned a lesson it could not unlearn. Strength was not always found in armor or numbers or perfect planning. Sometimes, strength was found in a warm presence in a cold place. And when the universe tested life with darkness, pressure, and silence, humanity answered in the only way it knew how. Together. The crisis began far from any border, far from any world that felt safe. It started as silence. Long-range sensors across multiple systems reported gaps. Not static, not interference, just nothing. Ships that passed through those regions did not return. Signals vanished without distortion, as if space itself had swallowed them. At first, the galaxy assumed a natural cause. Unknown gravity waves, exotic matter, a rare cosmic event. Then a listening post went dark, then another. Panic spread quietly the way fear always did among advanced species. Councils met, fleets repositioned, borders closed. Humans did none of that first. They asked a different question. "Who's missing?" Elias Ward stood in a crowded operations room aboard the Interspecies Command Station. Screens showed star maps filled with empty spaces where data should have been. Around him stood representatives of many species, each tense in their own way. Sathira was there, standing still, her crystalline features unreadable. "The pattern is expanding," an analyst said. "Whatever this is, it does not move randomly." "It's hunting," someone whispered. Elias leaned forward. "Or testing." The room turned slightly toward him. "Testing what?" a Threx officer asked. "Responses," Elias said, "seeing who hides, who runs, who freezes." "That is speculation," another voice said. "So is assuming it's just physics," Elias replied calmly. Data arrived mid-argument. A single ship had escaped the affected region. Barely. The crew was human. The survivors were brought in under heavy guard. Their ship looked wrong. Hulls scorched in places that made no sense. Systems intact but drained, as if something had reached inside and pulled power away. The captain spoke slowly, carefully. "There was something there," she said. "Not a shape, not a ship, more like pressure, like being watched by the dark." The room grew colder, though no systems changed. "It didn't attack right away," she continued. "It waited. When we panicked, systems failed faster. When we argued, it got closer." Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. "And when you worked together?" he asked. The captain met his eyes. "It slowed down." Silence followed. The conclusion was not comfortable. Whatever was out there reacted to division, to fear, to isolation. It fed on it. The galaxy had built itself on separation. On controlled interaction, on distance. Humans had done the opposite. A task force was formed, not just military, not just scientific, mixed crews, shared command. Humans embedded everywhere, many species objected. "This is inefficient," they said. "This increases risk," they argued. Sathira supported the plan. "The data is clear," she said. "Unity disrupts the threat's behavior." Elias was assigned to the lead vessel, not as captain, as coordinator. When the fleet entered the dark region, fear pressed in immediately. Sensors failed, light bent strangely. The stars seemed too far away, voices wavered. Elias spoke calmly over open channels, not orders, reassurance. "Status check, everyone respond, even if you're scared." Responses came in, uneven at first, then stronger. "I'm here." Shared breathing rhythms, simple words spoken slowly. "You're not alone." "It doesn't understand us," he said. "It expects us to break apart." He opened his eyes. "So don't." He ordered all ships to open shared channels fully. No filters, no hierarchy, voices overlapping, laughter, fear, anger, hope, all of it. The galaxy had never sounded like this. The pressure faltered, sensors flickered back to life just enough to show something impossible, a distortion pulling inward on itself, unstable. "It's collapsing," someone shouted. "No," Elias corrected softly, "it's retreating." The fleet did not chase, they stayed together. The dark withdrew. When the ships emerged back into normal space, damage was widespread but survivable. Losses were minimal. Across the galaxy, the pattern repeated. Wherever humans joined others and refused isolation, the dark weakened. It did not vanish completely. But it stopped advancing. Scientists worked to understand it, but Elias suspected the truth was simple. Some threats could not be beaten by force, only by refusing to face them alone. In the aftermath, the galaxy changed more openly than before. Joint habitats were redesigned. Shared spaces increased. Emergency protocols rewritten, not because humans demanded it, because the data demanded it. Sathira stood beside Elias as they watched new ships depart together, mixed crews laughing nervously but staying close. "The threat may return," she said. "Yes," Elias agreed. "You will face it again?" He nodded. "We will." She considered that word. Once it would have meant only his species. Now it meant something larger, far beyond treaties or alliances. It meant choice. And as the stars stretched on, cold and vast, the galaxy understood something at last. When the universe sent darkness, humanity did not answer with fear. They answered with presence, and the dark, for the first time, did not know how to respond.